Spider-Man's had the same suit for how long now? It's time to change that up. Welcome to the Comicstorian channel, where I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations of the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Today we're going to be continuing our storyline of Amazing Spider-Man, with their story arc contained within issues 61 and 62. To catch you up quickly as to how we got here, Spider-Man for 60 issues has been battling against a villain known as the Kindred, who turns out to be Harry Osborn. Harry Osborn went out and took away the sins and guilt of all of the villains within Spider-Man's array of villains, including his own father, Norman Osborn. Due to that, some of them have become good, some of them have become evil, and Wilson Fisk is planning something behind the scenes. But the entire playlist will be down below if you want to catch up on the entirety of the story. Don't forget to hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, and join us over at Patreon when you finish this video if you enjoy our content. A brand new suit on a brand new Spider-Man leaps into the fray, attacking Shocker, Hydra Man, and Speed Demon, stopping their crime. A short time ago, Wilson Fisk turned surveying the gathering of the New York crime lords. I want to thank you all for taking your time to meet with me. I know how busy you are. Fisk tells them, with Tombstone and Owl beginning to argue amongst themselves, but Kingpin stops them, pointing out that there is no need for petty squabbles since their operations have been streamlined with the aid of the mayor's office. Yes, having Wilson Fisk in the mayor's office has truly been a boon to all of our enemies. But you had to know, my friends, it all comes with a price, he tells them, and the group continues to look at him, asking him to cut the theatrics and tell them what he wants from them. Not what. Whom? He explains, hitting a button on his remote, and a holographic image of Boomerang appears before them. Fred Myers. Boomerang. The group pauses for a moment before all saying in unison, I hate that guy! Meanwhile, Spidey and Boomerang have been working together, moving through the city and finding the pieces of the Lifeline tablet. Thanks to Boomerang's visions, they've been able to locate several pieces. But lately, they've had other responsibilities. Both Fred Myers and his roommate, Peter Parker, who Fred doesn't know is Spider-Man, sit on the couch playing Call of Duty Latveria, emptying snack bags and soda cans all around them, when suddenly there's a spark of energy as Gog, their new pet, leaps out from behind the television. Peter's obviously annoyed, putting out the destroyed wires and commenting that electrical tape probably won't work this time. Ah, Pete, the little guy can't help it. Little soggy doggy just loves those power cords. Fred smiles as Gog leaps into his arms and hugs him. Gog begins to lick his face as Fred once again explains how Gog is going to make them rich. Peter sighs, thinking about the Gog social media that Fred made, which was making them some money, but barely enough for the food bills for the little guy. With rent coming up, Peter once again thinks about how he has been unemployed for several months, which leads him to getting a tour of the Threats and Menace headquarters by Nora Winters. She walks through the office asking if he liked her proposal. To be honest, I couldn't really understand it, he tells her, commenting that she used a lot of buzzwords. Sorry, I've gone corporate, she tells him, and they pass all the workers with Peter noting that they all look busy. They better be, traffic is way up, and it's about to go through the roof. She tells him with a smile as she unveils the new Spider-Man suit. What's this? Peter asks in surprise, and Nora tells him that the suit is for Spider-Man and is meant to upgrade his look, as well as his strength, speed, spider sense, and webbing. We couldn't ask our resident superhero looking anything other than spectacular, could we? She asks. It's all really impressive, Nora, but what do you get out of it? He asks, and she nods, admitting that it's a fair question, and goes to show him. She puts the mask on Peter's head, showing him that everything that he looks at appears on the screen. Thanks to the camera that we're installing in Spider-Man's mask, we're offering a fully immersive, highly interactive, super-powered experience for your mobile device, desktop, or VR headset. Peter pulls off the mask, reminding Nora that what Spider-Man does is serious business. It's not a game, he tells her. Of course not. It's journalism, giving the public a first-hand look at the life of trying to keep them safe. Nora begins, but a second voice interrupts her. Letting them see what a hero you truly are, J. Jonah Jameson said as he walks into the room. What do you think, my boy? Pretty impressive, isn't it? He asks with a smile, and Peter doesn't agree, pointing out that live streaming all of Spider-Man's exploits could expose some of the secrets that he's been trying to keep. But Jameson agrees, explaining that the stream would be on a delay and that Spider-Man has to agree to it. I assure you, Parker, protecting Spider-Man's secrets has been my top priority every step of the way in putting this together, Jameson tells him as he sits at the command console. Peter still isn't convinced though, continuing to point out the potential problems and dangers that could come out of this. This is what we're offering to pay him, Nora says as she dangles a piece of paper in front of Peter. A big smile suddenly spreads across Peter's face, and a short time later, Spider-Man is locked in battle with his new suit. He's able to finally keep ahead of Speed Demon, bouncing out of the way of Hydro Man, and as he flips from one of the Shocker's attacks, the voice of Jameson fills his ears. "Don't forget the one-liners!" he shouts, and Peter is confused. "Your one-liners! The audience submits them for you to say in a fight!" Jameson tells him, and over the comms, Spider-Man swings and flips to avoid Hydro Man, checking his phone. "Hey, Hydro Man! We're trying to have fun here. Why such a wet blanket?" Wow, that's terrible. And the next one is just shouted out as he dodges. "Hey, wait! That's not even a joke!" he says right before Speed Demon punches him in the face. "Okay, enough. Time to web these guys," Spider-Man growls, but Jameson in his ear again. "The audience poll! They want to see the web muck!" he shouts at him. Though he doesn't believe it, Spider-Man leaps into a web muck. "Happy now?" he asks as the fight ends. "Over the moon! Now just say that. This criminal apprehension is brought to you by your undies," Jameson tells him, trying to get the sponsor in. "Jonah, there's no way that I'm saying that this is for underwear," Spider-Man tells him as he straightens up. But suddenly a small fire shoots out, displaying the ad sponsor. "You know, I had a supervillain that did this stuff once. I thought it was the end of civilization." Spider-Man sighs, realizing that he has sold out. Earlier, Fisk asks the gathered crime bosses if they understand the mission: to capture Boomerang and bring him in alive. They ask what the pay is going to be, so Wilson holds up a get-out-of-jail-free card. "Whoever brings me Fred Myers will be given this, and it means, quite simply, that as long as I am the mayor, you and your associates are immune from arrest, interrogation, or apprehension by the police department," he tells them. Tombstone stands up. "Pretty impressive offer, Fisk, and I am certainly going to take my swing, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on Boomerang. He's not that easy to nab. He's got some mighty tough friends these days." "You mean Spider-Man?" Fisk nods. He knows the two have grown close, but Fisk knows Myers' weaknesses. Back in the streets, Speed Demon shakes his head. "I can't believe we just got beat by an influencer. Humiliating." "Yeah, not the best debut for Boomerang Revenge Squad, fellas." As Spider-Man leans his head in. "Wait, what did you guys just call yourselves?" Shocker chuckles. "You heard it the first time, Spider-Man. We're just the distraction after all," he tells the hero. And meanwhile, over in the park, the girls flock around Boomerang and Gog. "He's just the cutest, can I pet him?" they ask. "Of course, just one at a time. He's shy, not like his dad." Boomerang tells them with a smile, and Bullseye readies his rifle from a distance. "I have him, locked in my sights. Give the order, Mr. Mayor," and the gang gets it. Fisk stands in the darkness of his office. Boomerang has done so well at eluding him that he is a wild card and hard to capture. "But I have found his weakness," Fisk explains. In the city, Spider-Man is swinging as fast as he can to get to Central Park, but he's still going slow, yelling at himself to go faster. He's become just like the hero that he used to despise. "If you can't hurt him, hurt the ones that he loves," Fisk says ominously. In the park, Boomerang is flirting with the woman that thinks that Gog is cute when he's suddenly interrupted by SWAT ordering him to put his hands on his head. "Oh, hey fellas, Chuck and Danny. Good to see you guys again," he says with a smile and a wave. The police raise their weapons, once again ordering him to put his hands on his head. "You know, I would, but the little guy's got a leash and it looks like he had an accident over there. If I don't pick it up, that's a fine, right?" Boomerang says, continuing to smile. And Gog begins to growl, pulling at his leash, trying to get at the cops. "Hey Gog, calm down, buddy," Boomerang tells his friend, and Bullseye watches the scene through the lens of his scope. "Say the word, boss," he says over the radio. There's no hesitation in Fisk's order. "Take the shot," Kingpin commands. The gun goes off as Spider-Man arrives at last in the park, when suddenly Gog grows huge, bellowing in rage. Boomerang leaps away as he sees his new friend arriving. "Spidey, thank God you're here. Still getting used to saying that. It's Gog. He's huge," he yells, and Spider-Man leaps forward, taking out the SWAT team that's already opened fire on him. He twists as he throws one to the ground and sees Gog's collar, the thing that keeps him under control nearby. He reaches for it, trying to figure out a way to get it back on the alien animal. But Gog's tail swings out, knocking everyone away. Boomerang turns, still arguing the commands from the police. "Don't worry, Spidey! Here comes a special fastball!" he shouts as he throws one of his boomerangs that is attached to another collar. "I hope they don't have that trademarked," he whispers to himself, realizing that, he just took Wolverine's thing. Spider-Man catches the collar as he flips through the air, reaching the peak of his arc and begins to fall back down to the earth. Quickly, he begins to tweak the collar so that it grows in size, and as Gog begins to climb up a building like he's King Kong, Spider-Man begins to fall towards him, the collar falling over Gog's neck as Spider-Man tumbles past him, praying that his plan works. Almost instantly, Gog begins to shrink back down to a more manageable size. As Spider-Man shoots out a web line, he swings and catches the pet-sized Gog. Snarf! The creature rumbles embarrassed. He cradles him gently right before he slams into a parked car. Elsewhere in the city, Robbie Robinson sits with his son at dinner, laughing at the young man's current struggles with love. Robbie explains that the girl merely has a temper. Robbie nods, telling his son to give her another chance. Lord knows I could use the entertainment, he says, wiping a tear from his eye. But their dinner is suddenly interrupted as Jonah Jameson walks towards them. I should have known you'd be here. This was our old spot, he says with a cheer, as he shakes his old co-worker's hand. This was the Bugle spot? Yes, Robbie says, correcting him. Jameson laughs it off, ignoring the comment, and begins to talk about how the Spider-Man stuff is blowing up at Terror and Menace. Leaning over to Randy, he points out that Robbie could have bought the Terror and Menace for nothing a short time ago. Jameson continues to gloat, but asks Robbie if he would like to do a partnership. Have the Daily Bugle pop up text on their website. Yeah, Jonah, I don't think that's a good idea, Robbie tells him simply. Jameson begins to get angry as Robbie explains that this isn't the sort of thing that the Bugle does anymore. It hasn't since Jonah left. Well, I think you're jealous. I give people what they want, Robinson! He screams, and the two watch the old chief storm out of the building. Wow, that guy hasn't changed at all, Randy points out, and Robbie agrees. Later, Boomerang stands in Mary Jane's apartment, tears in his eyes as he holds Gog's stuffed animals. He likes the purple toy the best. Great, but he usually brings the orange one with him when we go for walks. That's Arthur. And remember, never ever feed him after midnight. Spider-Man puts his hand on Boomerang's shoulder. Hey man, it's gonna be okay. Thanks for pet sitting, MJ, he says. Don't mention it, Spidey, she says as she tickles Gog. She looks at Fred, telling him not to worry, they're all gonna have a great time. And it's just for a week or so, long enough for us to get the situation with Fisk settled, Spider-Man reminds Fred. Fred tries to remain strong, but it doesn't last long. I know, Spidey, I get it. I'm gonna miss Gog so much. He sobs as he begins to cry on Spider-Man's shoulder. A short time later, the two sit on a nearby rooftop. I'm sorry, Fred, I know it's tough, but he'll be safe with MJ, Spider-Man tells him. And Fred nods. I know, certainly safer than with us, he tells him. His shoulders sagging in defeat, but he suddenly stands up straighter, telling Spider-Man that he knows that this is his fault, that Kingpin is coming after him. And I'm gonna get some payback, he shouts angrily. Fisk might be mayor, but he's still just a criminal with a super cool ascot. And criminals are the superstitious and cowardly lot, no matter how well dressed they are. So I will become what they fear most. Yes, Father, I will become a boomerang! He bellows into the night. Meanwhile, over at Ravencroft, Fisk stares into the dark energy cell of Kindred. He knows that Boomerang will now begin to make mistakes, acting out of anger. Meanwhile, Tombstone comes out of his headquarters, smiling as he starts to get the job done. He gives his driver the address to Fred Meyer's apartment. Boomerang's got 2 roommates. Fisk made it clear that Peter Parker is off limits, but the other one, he didn't say nothing about that. He says, smiling at the picture of Randy Robinson, the son of Robbie Robinson, a thorn in Tombstone's side for a long time. Meanwhile, over at the Daily Bugle, Robbie is handed a file of photos of the latest Beetle that he was asking for. His assistant smiles as she hands him the folder. We put some freelance cameras on our new Beetle, like you suggested, she tells him. He raises an eyebrow, surprised the new villain has already popped up. Committing multiple felonies, I hope, he comments, as she shakes her head as she hands him over the folder. Only if you count public indecency. She's meeting up with her boyfriend, she explains before walking out of the room. He thanks her and begins to open up the folder, and his eyes widen in shock at what he sees. Elsewhere in the city, Tombstone steps out of his car, informing the boys that they'll be heading up the fire escape to surprise Randy Robinson. And as he climbs, he explains that they'll hold the kid hostage until Boomerang shows up, then off Robinson. Send his old man crying. Wait until I tell you. He grunts with a chuckle, and as he pulls himself up over the lip of the roof, he stops in shock and finishes his sentence in a whisper. Daughter. He gasps as he sees his daughter, the new Beetle, kissing Randy Robinson. And that concludes this 2-issue arc. Next week, we'll be continuing the Amazing Spider-Man catch-up saga right here at the Comicstorian channel. So don't forget to hit that like button, check out the subscribe button, and if you want to have a vote on the videos that are coming to the channel, make sure you head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/Comicstorian. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time right here.